Welcome, gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you,
Happy
Barbara.
to be here.
I'm looking forward to the symposium, which I'm going to hear later, about the challenge of radical Islamism in the Western world and how to deal with it, which is going to be very interesting. Nonetheless, the first thing I'd like to know and get an opinion from you about is the fact that it's a very big challenge to the world and America as well. But I don't think that we are, as Americans, prepared to understand the depth of the challenge or to do anything about it. What is your feeling?
Well, Barbara, first of all, you accused me of being an expert on this subject.
Oh, without question.
And that's simply not true. As an intelligence professional, particularly my last job at CIA, you tend to the here and now in terms of what it is you face each day. It's the most intense, present tense job I've ever had. But the question you've asked is much deeper than that. It's about deeper cultural understanding. It's about an understanding of what motivates people, some of whom want to come and do us harm. And here I think the shortfall is not so much inside the national security community, although it bears some responsibility, but the broader society. Picture, if you will, what we did in the first 10 or 15 years of the Cold War in terms of the American private sector. Companies, corporations, academia, in terms of Russian language, Soviet studies, Marxism, Leninism, and so on. And look at what the private sector, including academia, has done now with the world's current challenges. And I think you'll see we're well more than a brick shy of a load. That's what we really need to more deeply understand the dangers that confront us.
Okay. Do you think Israel is more equipped to understand the dangers of the potential of what Iran could, a nuclear Iran could foster on the world?
I think Israelis are highly focused on it because we are at the front line, and Israelis feel directly, immediately threatened by radical Islam, by Iran, by all those elements who are radicalizing our region. So there's a lot of expertise, of course, but generally speaking, I would say Israelis feel that this concerns them directly, so they're very focused on it.
Yeah, well, I tell you something, it's a very major concern, and you talk about education and understanding what the implications of Islamism, radical Islamism is. Am I correct, General?
No, exactly right.
Okay, so if, let's say we get educated to that process, what do we do about it? Are the sanctions that are being put in place, do you think that they're helping?
Well, I mean, you have to divide the problem up between what I would call the close battle and the deep battle. And the close battle has to do with the here and now, the immediate dangers, and there are tools like sanctions and diplomatic leverage or covert action or other tools are available. But the deeper battle, that's in the realm of ideas. And here, I think the General and I and the societies we represent have a more challenging assignment here. Because this, well, let me compare it with the Cold War again.
Okay.
Marxism-Leninism is a Western philosophy. And so I'm a creature of Western civilization. I certainly had some authenticity in talking about Marxism-Leninism and criticizing it. As part of a larger Judeo-Christian nation, as part of Western European heritage, that's much more difficult for me to do with regard to Islam. And really, what we need are authentic voices within Islam to condemn both the tactics and the vision of the extremists.
Well, do you think that that's going to happen? Do you think that they're there? Do you think they're going to step up and change this wave of problems that we have with them? I can't believe it. Can you?
Well, I think this is a long-term project. It's a very long-term project. We people who are in policy-making positions tend to think about the here and now. We're talking about something that's a long-term proposition. There are people out there who want to fight the battle of ideas against radical Islam, and we, the collective we, the West, everybody wants to stand up. We need to empower them by various ways, education, information, many other ways, and I think that we're more focused on the here and now and on the physical battle against them rather than the battle of ideas, battle on hearts and minds.
And here, Barbara, our levers are distant and weak. This has to take place within Islam itself. We can perhaps support, we can suggest, we can enable, but fundamentally, this has to be done within Islam.
And you think it's going to take place? You have confidence?
You know, we both come from an intelligence background. We're paid to be pessimists. But when I step back and look at the events truly of the past decade, one of the more encouraging developments is that there are some authentic voices within Islam now doing what I described earlier, challenging both the vision and the tactics of organizations like Al-Qaeda.
So, in other words, there was a, I don't know if it's a rumor or perhaps more of a fact that Israel is 50% sure that next year they're going to have to use and exert military tactics on Iran.
Well,
did you hear anything about that? Oh, can you validate that? I mean, I'm not talking about, you're talking about a world of ideas.
Yes.
I believe in it because as a person that deals with great minds and reads a great deal and so on and so forth, I'm very, very attuned to the strength of ideas. But I think that we're dealing with something that's so strong and so erratic that I don't know if ideas are going to fulfill the challenge that we have here.
Again, it is difficult. I mean this seriously.
I mean,
for
Mubarak is having problems.
No, I understand. But it's difficult for me to comment on one of the world's great religions. But if I look at my own religion and look what it went through in the middle of the 17th century after the 30 Years' War in 1648, and we in the West, in Western Europe, went through the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Enlightenment, we changed our attitudes. We came with a happy marriage of modernity and religious faith. And in some ways, I see that's the struggle going on within Islam today. I have no more reason to doubt that Islam will not be successful in this challenge than Christianity has been.
I'd say that this is both a battle of ideas and a physical battle, and you have to fight both. So we apply pressure on Hamas, on Hezbollah. We fought major operations, wars against them in recent years. At the very same time, I think we have to engage in the battle of ideas and not only in the physical battle.
Well, all right, let's jump a little bit aside. Let's talk about the effectiveness of what our administration has been doing thus far, okay? There are sanctions. They are feeling economic deprivation in Iran. That's true. But is it enough? And do they look upon, do you feel that they look upon America as weak and soft? I'm curious about what you feel about that.
I wouldn't make that judgment. I mean, if you have that view, I don't know that I've got a lot of facts to argue against it, but I would be hesitant to make that judgment. In fact, there's one line of reasoning that Iran is pursuing this nuclear capability out of a sense of weakness, that they do want the nuclear weapon in order to preclude what they fear somewhat irrationally might be impending American action against them. So I don't think they view us as weak. The sanctions, actually, this is the fourth set, and one have built upon the other, so these are the most biting sanctions of all. But even President Obama, talking to members of the press when the sanctions went into effect, pointed out that Iran may be so ideologically committed to this program that no amount of economic pain will make them change their mind. That's a realistic and a frightening prospect.
I must say, and here I differ a little from my colleague General Hayden, that there's a general perception in the Middle East of American decline, that America is weakening, not the same superpower as it used to be. Now, I'm not passing judgment whether or not this is reality, but as you know, that's a perception, and people act also along perceptions, based on perceptions. So that's to me, it's a matter of concern, because I think we out there in the Middle East need a strong America, America that will be respected and feared, and the perception right now is different.
Yeah. Well, that's a little frightening. Today's symposium, for instance, what are you trying to do with the audience? Are you trying to awaken them to become more aware? What is the focus of today?
Well, I think as the general suggested, we've got this close-in fight, the immediate fight that is very physical. And frankly, and here I'm talking mostly about Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
Okay. And frankly, we're doing reasonably well there, and I will attempt to point out some of the reasons why I think we're doing reasonably well. But the deeper fight, the battle over ideas, is something in which we're not being nearly as successful. And I would hope to point out to the audience that we need to do more there in the deeper fight. And there, the tools of national power that the general and I are used to dealing with aren't nearly as applicable. Here it is the realm of ideas, culture, learning, academics that have to be strengthened. In other words, it's a whole of government, whole of society problem that the whole of government and the whole of society hasn't strapped on the way our security institutions have strapped on.
Well, I agree. I think we're talking about a cultural change, a generational change. It's not something that could be done overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And we should develop more tools because we are all focused on the here and now, and on the physical battle more than on the battle of ideas. There are many things that could be done in the education system, in terms of democratization, human rights, and so on, over the long run. It's not something you do overnight, and I emphasize that, but over the long run, and we should have a plan implemented.
Yeah. The only thing, gentlemen, I think you're right. People should be aware, and there should be a concerted effort to create that awareness. It's terrifying when you think of if they do have a nuclear power and they become, all of the power of that area goes to Tehran. I really am anxious and nervous about what that would do to the rest of the world. I'm sure that Israel is very upset. I remember I was visiting a friend at the Kingdom of Bahrain at the embassy, and they are terrified of Iran. And they look to Israel, to the United States, somebody to help them.
Oh, I think we agree strongly. The Iranian possession of a nuclear capability is all bad. Number one, just the raw physical threat to Israel and the other states in the area. Secondly, it's destabilizing to the region. The Sunni Arab nations there, I don't think can allow Iran to have a weapon they do not have. So now you have an arms race in a very volatile part of the world.
Precisely.
And then finally, and this might even be the most important aspect of all, you would have had a middle-rate regional power, Iran, stare down the world.
That's exactly right.
And to achieve something that there was universal consensus they should not achieve. That has real implications for peace and stability globally.
You know, gentlemen, I just hope that your prognosis is a positive one. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being with us as well. Be with us again next week when we have another look into the Jewish world. Goodbye from Mosaic. Special thanks to the K Family Foundation, lead underwriters for Mosaic.